Renae, Captain Evil.
Uh-huh.
I'm excited.
I'm excited too.
You know, I've always had this vision of what the podcast should be, you know, and to me, you know, I like to give a real life version of our marriage, right, and the day to day and the things that we as a couple,
right,
struggle with. But I always had this idea that we would also be talking to other couples, and finding out their love story, what you know they go through on a day-to-day basis,
right.
And we're lucky enough to live in New Braunfels, Texas, and we've been friends with. Now that I look at it, well, quite some time we've been friends with
since we lived in California
with Randy Rogers and Chelsey Rogers. And for those of you that don't know Randy, look him up. One of the best Texas country singers out there. Yeah. He's got some amazing songs. I encourage you to put Kiss Me in the Dark.
Yes.
There's so many good ones. And he's got a new song coming out with a collaboration, and I'll let him talk about it more. But I'm just excited that this is going to be our first couple.
They're our first in the podcast studio guests.
Yes. Now
I'm excited to have another female on, if I'm being honest. Like, that's what I'm most excited about, is to have like a strong, because Chelsey is a strong female, and I'm excited to have her in.
That's kind of the stuff I want to talk about, because it does take a strong female to deal with having a husband who is on the road, having a husband who is
to balance. We'll say balance.
To balance all that comes with a touring act, right? So that's kind of the stuff that I want to get into with them is really talk about their love story, where they met, how they met, you know, Randy's love for music and how that happened, and then really get into the struggles of marriage, number one, and then on top of that,
a family. As you're like talking, I heard out loud, you're going, Mom.
Yeah, I think mine. So, ladies and gentlemen, a very good friend of ours, an amazingly talented man with his beautiful wife, Randy and Chelsey.
And we're back.
All right, so here we are. We talked about Randy and his wife Chelsey, and
we recorded a little before you guys.
We did a little intro.
We chatted about you. How excited we were to have you.
We're really excited because Renae and I spend a lot of time on this podcast talking about our marriage, our life, our kids, and what it's like for Renae and I, with me on tour constantly. And we wanted you guys on because you're married to a man who happens to be on tour. So let's start from the beginning, Chelsey. The love story. How did you guys meet?
At a bar. We met at a bar. How did we meet? We met in Steamboat at that music festival.
What were you just there?
I was a nurse, and I went with a group of nurses.
I never knew that about you. You used to be a nurse? Yeah. I knew you did like makeup. You were makeup artist, but I didn't know you were a nurse.
You realized that Renae was like, really? Did you hear? Like,
yes, I know.
You're a nurse. That's like how people see me when they meet my wife, and they're like, "Oh, well, really? That's your wife?" I'm like, "I think you just called me ugly." Yes. I'm pretty sure.
That happens to me all the time.
So mad. I'm like, why? So yeah, we did. We met. Our two friends had hooked up the night before, and we were their wing people.
Yeah, the next day.
Oh, that's fun.
At the bar the next day.
Interesting.
Because she didn't want it to count it as a one-night stand. So if you go the next day, it doesn't count.
Then it's
It's a 2 date.
We were dating.
Then it's not. You're technically it's not.
So was it so awkward on day 2 because you were literally just like?
No, well, not for me.
No,
I wasn't the one that was the one-night stander. So I just got to go watch it all go down, and Randy was the wing person.
So what's going through your head? Are you like, all right, just another girl on the road, or did you guys start hitting it off, and you're like, wait a minute, this girl's really cool?
Well, I mean, we hit it off right off the bat. She actually hit it off with my manager Enzo first. And so they were kind of talking at the bar.
Well, I was chatting. He was getting married. I wasn't hitting it off with anybody.
So yeah,
no, but hitting it off in the sense of you're having a good conversation.
She was just being friendly.
I was like, hey, so you're getting married. So where are you getting married? Da da da. And then...
And I wonder if Enzo in his head is like, oh my God, this girl's...
Why am I getting married?
Right, why am I getting married? This hot chick is talking to me right now.
But I totally played I'm playing the festival. My name is Randy Rogers Band card.
And so my sister is...
Well, hold on, did you already know who he was?
I know, I mean, like I like all different music, so I had a Texas country music playlist, and everyone got 2 spots. So, I mean, I had 2 spots. So, but I'd never been to a show.
I want to know who's on that 2 spots. Was it...
I mean, all your Texas country people, or all your red dirt people. I mean, your
America. I think see how she
whatever
just
you call it,
whatever that is that Randy does.
You know, the thing of the not the mainstream people.
So you did know who Randy was,
because he told me. I was like, oh, so you're playing? That's so great. So when are you guys playing? And we'll come support you. And he was like, oh, we're playing the big tent. Oh, well, that's good. You must be a big deal. What band is it? He's like, the Randy Rogers Band. Oh, that's awesome. What instrument do you play? And he's like, oh, I mean, I'm Randy. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
wow.
I mean, it really was that. She is telling the truth. She didn't put 2 and 2 together, but she was also inebriated.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it was 2 p.m. Not that.
So this is
inebriated.
after
What was the
your-
altitude?
Altitude.
This is after your friend hooked up.
With just a
The next
friend.
morning, yeah.
Another friend, and then the next morning you're like, well, you should come hang out.
No, they were watching football at the Sheridan, actually.
The Sheridan Bar.
And then you were like, you should
Steamboat
hang out.
Springs.
So, because where were you living at that point?
Fort Worth.
So you're in Fort Worth, and then were you living here already?
I was in Austin.
Oh, so you're in Austin.
And I lived in Austin for 6 or 7 years, and then it was getting kind of big, and they were like, the new Austin is Fort Worth. So I moved to Fort Worth for a year, and I did not. It was too country, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to go back to Austin. So we met, and I lived on Rogers Street, which was kind of fun.
That is
That was
hilarious.
a sign from God.
Yes, I was going to say that's totally a sign.
And so
So how does it continue?
from there,
We didn't talk.
for like 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were happy and free.
No.
So you're thinking about her,
To be fully honest, we were both going through a divorce at the time.
right?
So,
And I sent him an email. I wish you had the email because it was like, hey, I mean, I think I threw up and he let me sleep in his bed, like, but, you know. And I sent him a thing like, hey, you know, girls just aren't all losers. And like, you know, I'm so sorry, but you're going to find someone one day and you're going to be really happy. And I just wish you the best of luck. And thanks for helping me out. And that was a great night. And like,
Was
see you
that
later.
was that a sincere move by you?
Yeah,
Or
I was like, I was like, oh.
maybe me and him.
No, I was like, oh no, like he'll never ever call me again because I just royally messed that one up. So I just sent him like a nice little, hey, you're gonna be great, and
well,
have
I had
good-
a
have
party.
good
I had a
time.
party that night. That really what happened was I had a suite at the not at the Sheridan. It was at the Grand in Steamboat.
Yeah, we're all the people.
So I had this
where
huge
they host
suite,
the thing.
and then after the shows, everybody comes up to the suite. You would be telling jokes. Michael Martin Murphey was there playing guitar. There was 10 other artists. We were passing a guitar around, and I invited her up to the suite because it was just a party with like 50 people, and everybody was kind of doing their own thing, and I was sitting like Indian style, staring at Michael Martin Murphy playing his guitar, and kind of in a trance, and. You know,
Apparently, I was drinking all the drinks.
Yeah, she was probably she was nervous, and so I
Like, I'm gonna marry her.
I lost track of her because we had just met. I mean, it was just a friend, right? I just said come up and party, so I didn't even know where she went. Eventually, someone came to let me know that she wasn't feeling well, and then
No, I was asleep in the bathroom.
yeah, so. I didn't see her again on that trip. So
That was it.
I didn't see her again. And then I randomly got an email, like she said a few months later. It was like, yo, wasn't the best.
No, it was on the way because I'm like, I feel so bad. Like, that's embarrassing. So I'm like, hey, like before, like the day I got back, I sent him an email. Like that was fun. Thank you. Listen, best of luck.
Sorry, I threw up in your bathroom.
So sorry. That was so embarrassing. I'm so sorry.
So then a few months later, I was playing a show in Stephenville, and I rented a car, and I drove to Granbury, where she was visiting her grandma.
We met halfway because I was like, he might be crazy.
Took her out to lunch.
Oh, so you were like, hey, we should do lunch. We should.
Well, I think we needed a redo.
Yeah, that was the term I think he used.
But there's something cool too about now you're on. I don't even know the word I'm trying to use here, but now it's a different atmosphere, right? It's not Randy's show. It's not after the show. It's not a party. It's let's talk.
Yeah.
us.
It just
And
it
then we
didn't
had
just
lunch.
happen. We're like both making an effort and meeting halfway.
Yeah. We had a good date, and then we decided to have another date, and then another date turned into,
to where we're at now.
That
we're
was
at
it.
y'all's house here.
Yeah. So who was the decision to move to New Braunfels?
We decided to move out of Austin, and we moved to Spring Branch because it was just starting to get kind of just bigger. And
Right.
Well, let's back up, though, and we're going to go talk about our story. One of my favorite parts of our story is that, so she was in Fort Worth, and part of my part of my band lives in Fort Worth, or the greater Fort Worth, Dallas area. So the bus would have to stop in Fort Worth on the way home. And so the bus would drop me off, like, at her house. Like, she lived right by TCU. You could come down by the zoo in Fort Worth and then go over, and there was just, like, this perfect route where there was no trees, and the bus could just, like, drop me off in front of her house. And so she worked 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., and so the bus would drop me off at 6. I'd let myself into her house, take out the dog,
6 a.m.
fall asleep for like a second. She would get off work with all her girlfriends, and her roommate was a nurse. The reason why we met, her roommate was also a nurse, and so they'd be ready to drink. And so I would hop back up
at 8 a.m.
At
Have
8,
beers.
and go over to
So
Fuzzy's.
happy.
Go
So
to-
happy.
Your shift's over.
Yeah.
And you're
Like, I didn't
hey,
go back until 7 p.m. the next night. So I mean, you drink till noon, sleep
Pass
till
out,
7,
and then-
go
right.
do it
So
again.
we go over to Fuzzy's Tacos and have big beers and eat shrimp tacos at like
So happy.
7 in the morning, and
It's like
then
Randy's dream life.
go back and sleep until 4 in the afternoon, and do it all over again. So
So happy.
it was an
So
interesting.
you guys were on the same schedule.
Oh, yeah. Same schedule.
It was an interesting 4 or 5 months of that.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
Tumultuous.
That's like, you know what that reminds me of is Steve used to, when he was on tour, I was living in New York, but he was in LA and I was in school. So instead of flying in and out of LA for his gigs, he'd come stay with me for a little bit and fly in and out of New York, or I'd meet him in
So
Yeah, so,
tumultuous.
or whenever he was
if
on
I
the
was
East
doing,
Coast.
if I was doing DC, for example, I was like, well, why am I going to go back to LA?
Yeah, you would just stay in New York.
I'm boning this chick in New York. I might as well
Stay there.
stay there, right? And she had this.
Free place to stay.
She lived in a 1-bedroom.
I was not a nurse. I was a broke-ass college student.
She had a 1-bedroom with twin beds, and then the other roommate lived in the living room.
But we had a curtain that like partitioned the room.
Nice.
So I mean, we would sleep on a freaking twin bed together. And now we have this king size bed. I'm like, how did we ever sleep?
Oh, we did
in a-
that we slept on a full for the first 3 years.
Yeah, where literally your hand is in each other's
And now
face.
it's like, what? How
So,
did we-
so at what point does the Randy Rogers band thing wear off? Is there ever a moment of like, oh, now I'm just with Randy?
yeah.
Pretty quick?
Pretty quick,
Pretty
right?
quick.
Yeah, pretty
I mean,
quick.
I think, I don't know. I just feel like it's just not it's not my thing. So I'm like, that's his job. That's what he does. I think it's wildly entertaining, like it's fun. It suits what I like to. I like to change all the time and travel and do all that. But as far as like, I will go so far. Like I will not, even now they're like, what's your husband? He travels for work. Like,
Right.
don't even, not even throwing it out there.
But there has to be a moment where you guys you were on tour. Because when I met you guys were in LA.
Oh
together.
yeah, we went everywhere.
Yeah.
It was so nice because I worked 3 days, so I could just take off and go on the,
And the bus would just swing by.
I'm sure the guys on the bus loved it. Loved it. They loved having
we
me
had a thing where
as a
we
bus
wouldn't
mate.
go. We wouldn't go more than 4 days without hanging out. So
Yeah, because when I went, I'd
Wow.
go on and I'd see, I'd watch, people on tour doing things. And I'm like, it seems to me that the couples, and it's not always the case, but a lot, that the couples that are together the most seems like that makes the most sense. Or else you don't have the same shared experiences and you...
Yeah, no, we
Grow apart, yeah.
we
You
have
grow apart.
we have an older couple that we hang out with, and they're an amazing couple. And I remember Rich telling me one time, he goes, "Hang out with your wife, you can't get in trouble." He's like,
Yeah.
if you go to Vegas, take your wife. If you're on
Yeah,
the
I
road,
mean,
take
you know.
you
Yeah.
can't get in trouble.
I just figured 4 days was like, after that, I feel like you kind of have different stories, and
Well-
then you don't have a shared experience.
What about Randy's life and job surprised you the most?
Ooh, that's a hard question.
Randy's life and job.
Well, because I think
Like in the
people-
beginning?
I think I'm lucky enough that Randy and I play basketball. I see Randy at the house, right? But people don't realize that, like me, you're stepping away for phone calls and meetings. And, you know, a lot of people don't realize
I think that was it. As I kind of would take him as an artsy person, but he's the opposite. Way more like organized and like the work side of it versus the artsy side of it. I would just think that singers would be like, show up to the show and sing the songs. But I mean...
And I think there are probably some that do, right?
That do.
All they do is sing, and they don't deal with any other bullshit. But you seem to be more of a...
Control freak?
Businessman.
So, is he the control one in the relationship?
No, I'd say it's half and half.
Because Renee's, to me, the control one in all.
I would say it's half and half on some things. I mean, we've figured out who does what.
I mean,
For sure, because you're the boss.
Like, I stay in my lane, but he stays in his lane.
You have 2 votes, I have 1. I mean, you eventually get your way.
See,
you have 2 votes.
Steve's whole stand-up is.
I'm gonna paint that wall brown.
No, but you stay in your lane for the house. Like, you don't decorate the house. There's no voting.
Thank you. We got into a huge fight about this because Steve was like, everything in this house is you. And I was like, well, yeah, because that's not your area.
But I live here too.
What do you want it to look like?
I want it to be nice, but I would like somewhat of a say in... So then...
There's a reason this room is painted 2 colors, you guys.
Yeah, you shouldn't have got married.
This is his color, that's my color.
No, so then this one here, she goes, oh, you wanna say so? And I'm like, yeah, I want to say so. She puts 4 colors on the studio here, and she goes, okay, which one do you want?
And he picked the one I didn't like.
I go, well, I like this one. And then then there's consequences.
Consequences.
So now I have to hear constantly, I don't like the paint color, you screwed up.
So that's why 2 votes and 1 vote. Like, let's just make life simple.
So ultimately, you're the control freak.
In the house, I'm the control freak, for sure. 100%.
I think I should be a travel agent. So the one thing she's
not
great at.
I don't mess
It's like I've got us booked flights and hotels through like October, November right now, you know?
I mean, and I wait till like day of.
But as a mom, there's so much that changes, right?
Yeah,
so
I don't like to commit.
So that was my other question is now raising a family and having to adjust to the way life was, how is that for you guys?
I feel like we've done pretty well. Our kids are, I mean, I drag them along everywhere.
Well, that's what I was going to say. We see the girls at the shows. Everywhere. When we're at a show, the girls are there.
If we're there, that's what we're doing. I don't want to be the family that's like, our kids have to go to bed at 8 so they don't even know what this looks like, you know? I mean, because that's just not our life, you know? If we got up at 6, then they'd be getting up at 6, but we don't, you know? We're up at 11 p.m., so are they, you know? And it just works until they go to school, and then it...
Well, that's the scary part. So that's
where we're
That's what we're dealing with Garrett, where, you know, Garrett's able to fly out with us and go on the road and do stuff with us, which I don't know about you guys, but I think that Garrett is very intelligent because of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, River's so... If you talk to River, it's like talking to a 30-year-old. I mean, she's 30. She's just...
Because she hangs out with the band.
7-year-old body.
Yeah, she'll ride up in the front and talk to the bus driver for hours and hours.
They just chat it up. Loves it. And you'll hear him like belly laugh. Like they're just having the best
time. Just
time.
hanging out.
Yeah.
Best time up there.
How has it been for you adjusting to having to... Like, I mean, I know, you know, I'm lucky, right, as a stand-up. Like, for example, we're doing Pittsburgh. I'm there... 1 show Thursday, 2 Friday, 2 Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
And then I go home, but we're there for 3 days.
That's nice, yeah.
You guys are load them up, do a show, load them up.
You're like a baseball player.
Yeah, pretty much.
You get to stay.
I do a series.
I've known a lot of those guys that play pro baseball, and I'm like, you're so lucky. You get to stay in Boston.
Unpack your clothes. Yeah.
You get to stay in Boston for 4 days. You get to stay in LA for 3 days. You get to go then to Colorado and stay for 4 days.
I know when people ask me at every place, they're like, what's your favorite 3 places to eat in Boston? I'm like, I have one.
Because I'm only there
we have
for
one
meal.
dinner. And it has to open at 5 because we eat like old people because Renae has to play a show.
Yeah.
Right.
You beat the crowd. If you eat early dinner, you beat the crowd.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you
got your food has to settle before you go on stage, right?
Well, it's like when I perform in Vegas, I have a show every single night at 8 and 10 o'clock. So when we have all these couples hanging out, they're like, oh, we all want to go to dinner. And I'm like, well, it has to be 5.
I know.
because I got to go to work.
I'm not the only one.
Oh, I know. Oh, I know.
So now here's another big debate that we have. Renae feels like everything we do is on my schedule. That everything has to revolve around.
Because he says,
when does Steve get back?
I'm the control freak, and he doesn't take a vacation, so our vacation and our travel is all around his work.
Yeah, it counts as vacation.
So it's all around his schedule because
Chelsey,
that's necessary.
The way I see things, and I don't know if Randy sees it the way I do, we live a vacation. And if I get to go to Vegas and get paid to be there, that's vacation. And I don't understand how she doesn't understand. I get frustrated because I'm like, I don't know. We're in San Diego, we're in LA, we're in San Francisco. We're doing all these great things, and she doesn't consider them a vacation.
Well, because you're stressed out.
I was about to say, I do
exactly
unless
why.
Randy's an asshole.
Because you're stressed out. You're stressed out. You're an asshole. You're worried about the show.
Grumpy.
You're worried about how many tickets are sold.
Horrible.
You're worried about your own set list. You're tired. You're hungover. You're sleepy.
Waking up and being daddy.
I know exactly how you feel. For me, the adjustment from like the pandemic back to the road has been, I mean, to be quite honest, it's been a little bit difficult. Like, not afraid to share that, like, I'm not drinking this week because it's been a lot of, back on the road for 3 or 4 days and then thrown back into family life combined with like holidays, events, birthdays, our own personal vacations. The balance that used to be, I wouldn't say easy, but that we were used to, has been a little bit challenging for me personally to get back into the groove.
Me too, and it's almost different, and I don't know if it was because we were home and we were day to day
like doing
family life,
things.
Yeah.
And then to go back on the road, I normally before COVID I wouldn't do Sunday. Right, because I had gotten to the point in my career where I don't have to do Sunday, right?
Yeah.
But now with the pandemic still, and there's still places that are half capacity, in order for me to make the money that I would like to make in that market, I have to stay Sunday. So I forget where we were, and I'm like, oh crap! Like I just want to be home.
Yeah.
Like and I call Sunday sad zone, right?
Oh,
that last show.
This one.
You're not gonna. Did you recall that she said she was a nurse?
Yes.
You're not gonna get any compassion from this girl's.
I can save
sad
you.
zone.
I can save you, but I'm not going to be nice.
Yeah, she'll save your life, but she's gonna be nice about it.
That's you. You and Chelsey are very similar. Renae has zero heart.
But if you have a heart, I mean, you can't be married to you people because.
Well, that's why he goes on stage and talks shit about me for 45 minutes,
you
and then he wants
cry?
me to be sensitive.
No,
like,
but explain
At
to you
least I
people.
don't do that.
Explain.
I don't do that.
So explain you people, because you just said being married to you people.
You people.
What does that mean?
Because you can't afford to be sensitive to be married to you people. Do you think that having some girl show her boobs the whole show, which happened while the kids were there 2 weeks ago at Nutty Brown.
They were nice boobs.
Very nice boobs.
On a guy's shoulders. I mean, you can't afford to be sensitive. Like, I mean, does it bother me? No. Am I happy that he's still relevant? Thank you. I'll take it. But, like...
That's the line of the freaking podcast. Am I happy that he's still relevant?
Yes, because I pays the bills.
Yes, I'm like, love you. Thank you, girl.
Thank you for those titties and
Yes.
the ticket you bought.
Like, love it. Like... Love it.
One issue that I know we have.
I mean, I'm not crying in the back.
Yeah.
Like, you can't afford to be sensitive.
One issue I know that we have that
survive.
completely pisses her off is like, I get so used to, in the sports world, it's locker room talk.
Right.
So I'm around a bunch of dudes in a tin can rolling down the highway for, the last, 4 days or a week. And we talk about some weird shit. I mean, we talk about stuff that we wouldn't talk about
normally.
And normally in front of our girls. And we act in ways that we wouldn't act normally in a family setting.
Yeah, like a band.
Like cake people. Like cake people.
I call them pirates. Yeah, like pirates. Yeah.
In a group setting, even like with just friends in the neighborhood or whatever.
Right.
Like Jeffrey, for instance, he has very interesting humor, our guitar player. He has very interesting humor. It's very dry. It's very funny. And I think he's one of the funniest people alive. But she says I come home and I just act like Jeff. Because I think Jeff is so cool and funny.
I'm like, why are you acting like Jeffrey?
And she doesn't think
it's
Jeffrey
funny.
is cool and funny.
No,
Yeah,
I think Jeffrey's funny, but it's Jeffrey, and it's fun when Jeffrey talks the way that Jeffrey
Right.
talks, but not when Randy is Jeffrey.
And then
I didn't marry Jeffrey.
I also come home and I'm used to people on the road like, hey, would you like a drink? Can I open the door for you? Can I get you this? Can I do that? Can I check in the hotel for you? Can I do this?
The other day we
I'm
said,
glad you brought this up because that's what I was going to bring
I
up
come
next.
home and I'm like, well, I made all the money. come over here. And she's like, get away. You actually smell like vodka. You smell like tequila and vodka. Get away from me now.
Well, I was going to bring that up because I remember you girls having that conversation of like, well, you're not on the bus, and Steve, you're not in your green room.
Let's make sure the head fits back through the doorway.
Yes, can we just come back in? Let's get off our little, not the Randy hour
But it's
anymore.
not that easy.
But it's not that easy, and also, I am the boss on the road. Right.
Steve talks about this all the time. Yeah, on the road he's the boss, and then he comes
I have
home
my
and
road
it's like-
manager. I have my comedian. I hire all of them.
And you do have to delegate on the road, and
Right.
then it's nice to come home and not have to do that.
But when I get home and my opinion is not even worth 20%.
Nope. Not even 10.
Just don't say words.
So do I have a fit? Yeah, I have a little bit of a fit because I'm like, wait a minute, dude. I would like at least 50%.
But in our defense, you haven't been home, right? We've
you have
been
a
like
0%
running that
for
shit
3
without
days.
you.
It's just hard for us to like understand that.
Yeah.
That it's been run without you.
So Randy,
That what we have to offer now that we're home is absolutely
irrelevant.
nothing. Yeah, irrelevant.
No, it's not that it's irrelevant. It's just that like there's a fully functioning system when you're gone. And so it's like, come on board and jump on the system.
Yes.
Don't come on board
And
try
change the
and
system,
mess it
'cause
all
it's
up.
working.
Because then you leave again and we got to put it all back in place.
but like they act like we come home and fucking destroy the house.
Well, listen,
No.
the house is a lot cleaner when you're not in it.
Oh, sorry, Miss Betty out there helping you out. I apologize.
No, on the
Shout
weekends
out to
when I'm
Betty.
flying solo.
We don't even have a Betty.
We call
Yeah,
it behind
we
the
don't have a
scenes
Betty.
Betty. Behind the scenes Betty.
No, but it is a transition for me. I don't want to speak for Randy, but for me to come off the road, to come home, and a lot of times, as you know, in this business, things happen lightning fast. Where I get an interview, I'm sorry, Renae, but your plans have to change. So that's what makes it tough for me is that I'm not doing it on purpose. I don't come home and go, let's fuck up this entire system.
I'm not saying
No,
that
I don't
he
think
is.
it's on
I'm just saying
purpose.
that like acknowledge the
It
fact
just
that
does.
acknowledge the fact that happens all the time in our schedule. Just admit it. Our
For the
schedule
record,
does.
I'm acknowing that we fuck things up.
No, we do. Yes.
He's like,
but
are you
what I'm
ready to
saying
eat
is
dinner?
that-
And I'm like, it's 4:45, and no, I'm not ready to eat dinner, and you have to wait till it's dark outside. So he just sits around and waits until it's dark outside.
Lunch is the worst. Like, I get home on
what are we
Sunday
having
morning.
for lunch? We're not. We're having a protein shake. Would you like a shake? No, just no.
We get to a town and we
So
get
mad.
off the bus at 11 a.m. And then we scurry to town to find the cool things and cool shops and,
As the door unlocks, they're waiting.
meet the local bartender.
the lunch place.
Find out where the fancy place is to eat. Find out if there's anything in town we should go see. Like, we're up and at 'em, And so
Yeah.
when I come home, and we are old people, I guess. We do eat early. And I come home and, like, she goes to work out, like, at 11 or something. She didn't get back until, like, 12:30.
It's Sunday, right?
And I'm sitting there with the kids, and I'm
He
starving.
has an hour to sit at the kids. I'm like, there's a pantry. Have a granola bar. Like, wait. Just sit and wait.
But I don't get to call the shots, is my point.
Yes, I agree.
And so then I don't get to dictate where we go, when we go,
Well, I
what
mean,
we
I'd
do.
like to wash my hair because I haven't done that in 4 days because
When-
I've had the kids.
Oh my God! You know what? You and Renee.
So, I mean, it's
For
nice
4
to have
days.
an hour to wash your hair
Yes.
while someone else is watching the
For 4 days, I've been this independent
nice.
soul who's the leader. And then
The
I
boss.
get home and I'm not the leader and no longer independent.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
The transition.
it's very different.
But it's exactly what you said. Pre-COVID, we knew the system. And then COVID happened and
And then
everyone's
really,
home.
it was crazy.
And so now it's this figuring out how we...
Randy's goal for COVID was to find 2 hobbies.
Started going
I
fishing.
said, if you do not quit
more.
following me around asking me when we're going to eat lunch,
Go do something.
or, so do you want to hump later? What? No, I don't. No, I'm going to go work at my store.
Food and
I,
sex.
I don't think Randy said you want to hump. I think it's a little different than
Yeah, a little
hump.
I mean,
a different-
constant. I'm like, you've got to go do something. He's like, well, I may not have it.
Which, by the
Well,
way,
go find a hobby.
Which, by the way, because of you guys, we now have 2 bidets in this house.
What does that have to do with humping?
No, well, I don't know. It reminded me.
That's going to
of
be the title.
humping.
Rick's going to title this episode Humping and Bidets.
Humping and bidets.
2 things that actually do go hand in hand.
Yes. How is so? I want to go back into your life a little bit, Randy, because to me, you're one of the best out there. I mean, you.
Well, thanks,
you're-
Steve.
you're
I think you are the best.
Thank you, sir. But the songwriting, there's something really special about your voice that I always tell Renae all the time. Would Randy end up in the finals on The Voice? No, probably not. But I enjoy your voice more than that person that might, just because there's something special about it. At what point this little boy from Ennis?
No, Cleburne. Very close. We played Ennis.
Yeah, little boy from Cleburne decides to be a musician. Where does that come from? Who handed you a guitar? I mean, I want to know all of that. It's interesting to me.
That was really simple. I mean, my dad was a preacher, grew up in church. Got a guitar when I was like 11 or 12 from him. His best friend, Steve, would sit around and play guitars. So I taught myself how to play guitar at 12 or 13 with a chord book, and I had a chord chart on my wall, the poster, which every kid should have if they want to learn guitar. Just shows you every chord and every finger position. And I'd sit there and I'd play along with the radio and dreamed about being George Strait and, Willie Nelson. And then I started writing songs, and they were just real simple love songs when I was like 13.
But didn't your parents put you in some kind of voice? Because
Well,
they wanted
did,
you
yeah.
to sing in the choir.
Later
or
on, once
something?
I was never really in a choir. I wasn't in choir in school, and I didn't do choir at the church other than I would do special music at the church. My dad preached in these churches that were so small. The choirs were pretty, they were like 4 old ladies, and I would maybe sometimes be up there, but I was too young. But I would perform in church every Sunday.
So you go, hey, grab your guitar, sing a song for us.
Right. And so, I wrote a lot of poetry and a lot of Jesus songs, I guess, praise songs when I was little. And then I just fell in love with music in general. And then at that point in time, I was probably 14 or 15. I showed interest. I wanted to. Remember when Six Flags would have those little side shows where they would do the singing and dancing?
We saw Maroon 5 there one time.
So I dreamed of being in one of those shows. So my mom took me up there and we tried out for that. And I made the call back. And they eventually didn't hire me, which might have been the best thing that ever happened to me.
Right.
It pissed me off.
What if you were not? What if you were the Justin Timberlake, like a Disney kid?
That guy.
What
that
if
guy
you
asked.
were one of those? What if you knew Britney Spears?
But what you said right there is so interesting. Is you, like me, envisioned yourself on stage, right? I always envisioned, and for me, and I don't know how you felt growing up in a little town. I had no idea what a comedy club was, or I had no idea how to even begin. Did you feel the same way? Where you're like, I don't even know where to begin.
Well, luckily in my genre, we had the Opries. So I started playing the Opries. I played the Burleson Opry and Granbury Opry. And, my grandparents would come out and hear me sing. I was wearing starched jeans and starched shirt, a big old black cowboy hat singing Don't Take the Girl, And so, it was
Is
like...
there a video of that?
I know,
hope
right?
There's
video
pictures.
of that.
There is video. But, I think that I had a dream. I had a vision. And it did rub my parents wrong, to be honest. They didn't see that there was money in it or there was a future in it. They encouraged me to do it. In fact, they, like Chelsey said, they put me into vocal lessons. And so I wanted to go on record by saying 21 years I've never canceled a show because I lost my voice. And I think it was because at 15 and 16 I learned all these techniques to use your diaphragm and to sing from your gut and not use your throat, and to, even if you are cruded up and sick, you can still make it happen and without touching your vocal cords. And anyway, learned all these things when I was younger.
Right.
And that was because my parents put me in that, right? And so, at 17, I graduated and decided to go to school in San Marcos. And all they said was, get a degree. We don't care after that.
Just get a degree.
Get a degree. So I found Cheatham Street Warehouse somewhere at 19 years old and started writing songs every week. And that's when it really started.
Were you ever stage fright? Was it ever...
No, because I'd had it since I was a kid. I mean, I've been on stage in front of people at church or in an Opry setting since I was 12, 13.
Now, when was that moment where you wrote a song and you went, aha?
Yeah, I mean, I think the song Lost and Found for me, I was 18 years old. My girlfriend had just found somebody else. And
You were 18 when you wrote Lost and Found?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was 18. She broke up with me, and my roommate and I got into this huge fight, and he hit me. It was revolving around her, and I wrote Lost and Found. I remember my other roommate was working at Walmart, and he came home.
I always think about the girl in this story because I just don't know that you were probably a real schmoozer at 18.
No, I didn't have anything. I mean,
Well, none of us were. I mean,
A Casanova. I'm just going with probably not a Casanova.
well, she just divorced the guy that she left me for, so there's that.
So, not that I'm checking.
I also know
But her name is
you're following up. Well, I'm glad that you. That
No,
worked out for
she's
her.
friends with your friend Cheech.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Just keeping tabs.
so Lost and Found.
Never know.
We all are really secretly.
Lost and Found.
Which little known fact is the actual Lost and Found. I guess everyone knows this except for me. I always thought it was a bar. You can find me at the Lost and Found. I'm like, I was like, where is that bar? And he's like, no, it's like at school, like the Lost and Found. I'm like, oh, like the literal Lost and Found?
Yes, like the things that have been lost and found.
Oh, I just thought it was a bar the whole time.
So I wrote that song, and my friend came home from Walmart, and I'm sitting there on the couch, and I go, hey, Brian. His name's Brian Garrison. I say, hey, Brian, I just wrote this. Tell me what you think. And I remember he was like eating a sandwich, and he came over, he sat down on the couch in front of me, and he said, are you fucking kidding me? And I was like, what? What does that mean? Do you like it? Is it good? He's like, Randy, that is so fucking good, man. Like, what are you going to do? And I was like, what do you mean am I going to do? I don't know. He's like, you need to do something. And so then that was kind of like it. I mean, we were in this shitty apartment on the east side of 35 in San Marcos, broke as can be. And
So then where does it go from there? I mean, do you feel that, being at Cheatham Street, you're starting to get fans? Or are you walking around campus and people are
at
like...
that point, I hadn't walked into Cheatham Street yet.
Did you make flyers?
So that was later. But so I had these 3 or 4 other songs I'd written at that time. And there was these cats that owned this music store in San Marcos, and they had a studio. And so I randomly went down there and said, hey, I'm a kid and I want to record something. And so they recorded these 4 or 5 songs. And then they knew Leroy Eichler. Leroy Eichler was George Strait's bus driver. So I drove out to his house. I think he actually lived somewhere in this neighborhood. And went out to his house, knocked on the door, said, hey, I'm Randy Rogers. Here's my demo tape. I'd love to be a songwriter. And so he called me back, had me over at the house. He's like, George Strait's bus driver. We're still friends to this day, and he still drives a bus for George. But, it was like moving like that. Like I was putting myself in position.
But what I always say to Randy is what he lacks in talent, he makes up for in tenacity.
Thank you, dear.
Like, he may not win the
You and
voice.
Renee
He may not win the voice, but by God, he's going to make you play his
No, but we talk about that all. I mean,
He will
Steve,
play the song.
Steve on this podcast talks about all the time how he's such a hard worker and he's got his hands in so many things. And you're similar. It's not just the songwriting.
he's not
It's
gonna let
not
it go.
just
It's
the
not gonna
playing
let
the
it go.
music.
Yeah.
You've got your
He
your
didn't
other
just play
businesses.
the song and
like-
someone found him.
No, that's the big question that I have internally all the time and that I'm starting to write jokes about is, okay, something put grit inside of me and Randy.
Yeah, how do you create grit?
How do you create grit for now kids that live a very privileged life?
Our children.
Oh, I know. That's why I'm like, go outside in the sun. Sweat.
But you guys deal with that when you're raising these girls is, how do we keep them humbled? How do we keep them to understand? Garrett goes to my dad's house and by the way, the house I grew up in, and we leave and my son goes, Dad, why is Grandpa Joe's house so small? Right? And then I realized that, man, the people we hang out with and the
It's
house,
like they'll never
they don't see that.
Yeah.
Right? So whatever gave us that grit and that tenacious attitude, how do you, because there's something about, it's funny that you say, Randy, very easily that, well, I picked up a guitar and I just learned guitar. Well, a lot of
You have
kids
to
get
sit
self-taught.
and
right.
learn
A lot of
forever.
kids get handed a guitar,
Yeah,
And say,
it
"This
takes
hurts my fingers,"
takes
and
2
give up.
minutes. And they're like, this is not easy.
Yeah.
and you just loved it.
Yeah, I loved it. And my parents didn't let me go outside much. I don't feel like.
He was very, very
I
sheltered.
was very sheltered. So from 13 to
I
17.
mean, he still had to try to find a hobby at what? During COVID at 40, you had to find a hobby?
Yeah, 13
Like,
to
no
17.
hobby.
Hey, we played the Chocolates play basketball.
I know,
on
that's one
occasion.
hobby.
Yeah,
I'll
our,
take
our
it.
hobby turned into our job, which is awesome for us. But at the same time, what made me driven, I think, was I realized that I had something. When you talk to pro baseball players or pro football players, they knew pretty early on. And I'm a big sports fan. I know you are too. And it's like these kids that are in the NBA, they knew they were going to go to the NBA when they were 10 years old, 12 years old.
Do you think it's because people told them that, or they just were like,
There's some. I mean, I know that you don't believe that we have talent, either of you, but it's like
I give him some credit. I give him some credit.
"Except you're talented"?
you take what you're given, and as as much talent as you have, and you turn that into as much as you can. And I think
I'm going 70-30.
For my case, like if someone said, "What do you do?"
70%
Is Randy a singer? Is he a guitar player?
Passing.
Or is he a songwriter? I think I would fall in the songwriter category. I'm no virtuoso on guitar. I'm not, like you said, thanks, Steve, not the greatest singer in the world. But, what I have, the combination of the three, I think works, and I think that's what people are attracted to.
I think so too, but what I'm saying about your voice is there's just something special about it.
No, it's you can distinguish it. It doesn't sound like every other person.
And I'm not going to name any names, but you redid a song that somebody else sang, and I'd much rather listen to your version of it because of the texture of his voice, and there's some heart in your voice.
Do you want to know why? There's actually a medical reason.
Yeah, I want to know why. Yeah,
and she's gonna laugh, but she's a nurse. But so I've oftentimes had my throat scoped because my vocal cords. Well, I mean, it's our bread and butter.
Yeah, I don't say don't.
Your vocal cords, they when you sing, they come apart, and then when they close, they come together, right? And so I have a birth defect on a vocal cord that makes it open up just a little bit, just a sliver. And so the raspiness that is because of a birth defect. And so, because I've been like...
Also allergies.
And allergies and lots of combinations of things.
Yeah.
But like
being snotty and still being able to
I went
sing.
to one of the most world-renowned doctors, the same doctor that fixed Wade Bowen's vocal cords, and had him take a look. And he explained to me that he's seen opera singers, he's seen all these people, these really great singers. And the ones that typically have unique or distinctive voices have some sort of defect in their vocal cord, which is very interesting, and it'll also make you think about all the talk show people that you've listened to through the years.
It's
all
their
the
unique
voices
voice
like Tom Brokaw stands out to me as being one of the greatest voices of all time.
Oh yeah,
and I get because no one sounded like him. You couldn't duplicate. You and I couldn't do Tom Brokaw impersonation.
That's so interesting.
If we wanted to, but there's so many voices out there that are unique, and luckily, mine is somewhat unique. And when I do sing, and people have told me that all through my career, it's like, you came on the radio, we knew it was you, right? And
that's special.
But I think that makes a big difference.
It makes a huge difference, I think, and it's not as generic sounding of a voice as Wade Bowen.
Well, for example, if we're using examples, Wade Bowen. But for me, when you hear somebody like yourself or Steven Tyler, for example, right, and you go, there's just something special about it, and there's one song, and I think I gravitate towards your music as well. We used Interstate on the special
in the opening of Till Death,
but it was so perfect, and I think that because you live the same life I live, that you're able to write these songs. How has she influenced you? How have the girls influenced you when now you're writing songs?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every time I tell Chelsey I write a song about her, she has an issue with it. In fact, one didn't make the record that I really enjoyed. I liked it a lot because the first verse was, I know we've both made our share of mistakes. And she says, I made no fucking mistakes.
And also it made our fair...
Mistakes? What are you talking about?
I don't know, or I love that we wound up here. You just wound up here? You just fell and that's where you decided to sit?
Steve says he loves this podcast because only on camera do I admit that I've done something wrong. Like I'm trying to get people to like me.
I mean this podcast for Renae and I has become therapy.
So the next single that we're gonna bring as a band is a song called Picture Frames. And I wrote it about her, and I wrote it about the fact that she has traveled with me all these great places. And we have got to share the road together and seen all these great cities. And so the first line of the song is, remember that night in New Orleans. And she goes,
what? Because what's the next word after? Or it's the rhyme, it rhymes with?
Remember that summer night in New Orleans. We'd only known each other for a couple weeks. And she goes, I just hate the way you say New Orleans.
Now, who says New Orleans? Is it because it rhymes with weeks?
Yes.
So there's really
can you just say New Orleans? Like regular person?
You can't say Nolens.
New Orleans.
Nolens.
Anyway, but it's just that's typical of Chelsey. She would never give me a compliment.
But Renee's the same way.
Well, I mean, he has enough people to give him a compliment. My job is to make it better. I mean, he has enough people to say he's doing a good job.
Do you feel the same way?
Steve,
I'm a helper through other ways.
But I think that's any man. I think men in general want to be coddled and babied.
And he has a lot of people to coddle him.
Yeah, and so Steve's always asking for more of that from me.
Yeah, I'm like, oh no, that's not my forte.
Renee's very cold. Renae doesn't, zero affection.
But again, you can't talk shit about me for 45 minutes on stage and make a career out of it, and then expect me to be like this soft emotional,
sweet
like little
person.
emo.
So she one note she gave me on a joke, and that's the only time that she's ever gone, please do not do that. And it was when I was doing the bit about us having our baby, and I would make this noise. And then she was like,
that sound. I hate it. And you were doing the special, talking about me delivering our child.
Oh God.
But would they not come in and go, would they not?
Thank God.
With the Pitocin, they'd come in and.
But thank God other people had the same note.
That's a
Otherwise,
horrible
that
noise.
would probably be in that special.
So do you usually bring her the idea, or do you wait knowing her and go, all right, I'm going to bring somewhat of a finished product for her to hear?
No, I'll just write the song and play it for her, and she'll destroy it.
He just writes the songs and but he asked for an opinion, but really doesn't want an opinion.
Yes, that's
He's
exactly
like,
what I was
do you
about
like it
to
or no?
say.
Or what do you think? And I'm like, ooh, that's a weird word. Well, it rhymes. That's why the reason why we used it is because it rhymed that way. Well, you didn't. You asked me if I thought it was what to do with it.
So
It's
quit
the
asking.
word.
And then when you
the
quit
worst.
asking, they'll be like, "Oh, you don't care about."
Well,
my
you don't
opinion?
care about my opinion. You don't want to. You don't
Well,
want to
you
hear what I have
don't
to
really
say.
because you asked for it, but you didn't want
Yeah,
it.
you
So
didn't want
either
it. You
way,
wanted
you
me
don't
to say
care about
that's
it.
just the best thing you've ever done.
No, I don't have my issue is, and I think I'm understanding what's going on here. My issue is that Renae does not know the structure of a joke, and I have spent 20 years
No, I would
perfecting
never do what you do.
the way to tell a joke. So then when she goes, why did you do that joke that way? I'm like, well, because of this, this, and this. She said, well, you don't have to do it that way. And I'm like, you're talking to me about, this is my department.
Yeah.
I don't say that.
No.
We run into a little bit of that.
I just say. I mean, I think New Orleans sounds funny.
But Chelsey, what do you think the biggest struggle is in your relationship? Is it the touring? Is it, what is the biggest issue for you guys? I think our biggest issue would have to be the figuring scheduling, our life schedule. And
See, I wouldn't say it's scheduling.
what do you think
Ours
it
is
is?
mine is the between, the back and forth. Because when he's home after 3 or 4 days, we got it. When he goes out after 3 or 4 days, we got it. But there's never 3 or 4 days. There's 3 days, and then there's 3 days.
Yeah.
So it's that quick, like.
There was a country
Transition.
music artist. It was in the Hall of Fame when I went through there. I think it was Jerry Reed. It may have been Jerry Reed. But he had a room in his house, and he bought everything from the Holiday Inn, like everything from the
Like had a pool house, like an outside house.
and he made it look like the hotel.
hotel.
And the first day back with the family, he would see them and
And then he'd go
interact with
stay at the
them,
hotel.
and he would go sleep by himself,
That is so bizarre.
sober
I
up
know.
or whatever,
But
Right.
not a
And
bad
then-
idea.
and then get back to normal.
Just like
Ease in, like
his
an
transition
ease
room.
in.
transition room, and it worked. I'm not suggesting that because that would really piss me off, but
But I get a lot
we're
of
not the only ones that have struggled with this.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and I also told Renae there's people out there that are insurance salesmen.
Yeah,
right?
that are gone all the time.
My friend Ponch, who is a financial guy, he's on the road all the time. We are lucky and blessed. What we do is really fun.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
and I think our situation is a little different too, in that Steve and I are lucky that we work on a lot of things together. Whereas you have your own business and that's completely separate, and Randy has his business and they're
Oh, that's
completely
another
separate.
thing. Does Randy get involved with your business? Because for those of you that don't know, if you find yourself in New Braunfels, you have a beautiful shop.
No, tell them the website because they can shop online. Anyone can shop.
River Rose.
She has
Shop
really,
River
really
Rose.
cute stuff. Really cute
It
stuff.
is.
Shop River Rose.
So when did that come into, well, I want to do a boutique?
Oh, I tried to stay at home with River because it made no sense to go back to nursing, but I'm a worker bee. So then I was like, oh, I have to do something. So I just decided the smartest move, which wasn't smart, was to open a store when she was 6 months old. So
I
now
didn't
she's
realize that
7.
she was 6 months old when
Yeah,
you
so
opened.
I've had it 7 years. There's one in Lubbock too.
Does he get involved? Does Randy get involved with
He
decision
wanted
making
to. I
over
think
there?
at first he thought that he'd come in there and all the little girls working there would be like, oh, it's Randy. And now he calls and they're like, he's calling again. And I'm like, you get it. He's like, they just bring me the phone. He's calling.
He's calling.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be like, wow, I'm gonna have my own boutique, and I walk in there and they don't care. No one cares.
But it's got to help, right? That that you're Randy Rogers' wife and you
Oh
have
yeah,
this beautiful
totally helps.
boutique.
Yeah, I mean it's great. I'll take it.
And-
But does he? Does he do it? I mean, I thought if it didn't work out, he could like busk at the front, for money. But it worked. I mean, that was always my plan, like C. So
I've broken down some boxes and taken out some trash, but not often. But I
like
do.
twice in 7 years.
Whatever.
It doesn't matter. But
When I wasn't there, he popped in to see if I was there, and there was a little girl there that was working.
But do you get involved at all with the way the shop runs, with what merchandise she should have?
Are you kidding me?
I'm wondering.
Look at me, no.
No. Well, I remember finding that shirt, and I hate that I can't find it. Is the Highwayman shirt that you had? Or no, it was a Waylon Jennings shirt. And I love wearing that shirt, and I can't find it anymore.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure it got left
it's
at a hotel.
Sweet shirt. Yeah.
Well, that's a problem. I leave crap on the road that doesn't make it, right? And then she gets mad because, that's why I wear garbage.
He does wear garbage.
I always wear the free stuff.
Yeah.
She gets so mad at me
my
for wearing
God.
free stuff. I'm like, it's free.
constant.
What?
shirts.
He was doing one, and it was like for an energy company, like the little fishing shirt, and it with the logo. And I'm like, you look like you work there. Could you, like, I know you wore it for the thing, but like you don't work there. Like, stop wearing that shirt.
Yeah, but it's free.
It's free.
And he just wears all the free shit constant.
Dude,
but if you
I-
want to send him some stuff, guess who's gonna wear it?
This guy.
I'm the same way.
He'll wear all the free shit,
Free hat.
all the free stuff.
Hand.
It's constant.
But Timmy calls me gift baskets. Right, that's what Timmy, my road manager, calls me gift baskets because every time we go in the green room, he's like, gift basket, another gift basket. So I always get Crown Royal because I talk about Crown on stage. So at first I'm like, ooh, I got a bottle of Crown Royal.
So exciting.
And now I'm like, give it to staff. Like I don't need another bottle of Crown Royal. And then I run low here and I'm like, all right, Timmy, we're back to gift baskets. Bring the gift baskets home. But did you ever, Randy, have the feeling of I made it in your career?
There's been a few moments. Those moments also go away. I think when we played David Letterman, it was my national TV, debut. And I remember as a kid going back to that 12 or 13-year-old me, with the TV off, you could see your reflection on TV and stand there in front of it and play and think one day I'm going to be on TV. I'm sure you did the same thing. So that moment, playing with David Letterman, Clint Eastwood was the guest. I thought that was it. I mean, smoking weed with Willie Nelson after that happened.
And now he's your friend.
I was like, I've made it. My dreams have come true. And then I played the Houston Rodeo with George Strait, opened for George Strait, and there was 85,000 people at Reliant. And I thought after that, hey, if it all goes to shit after this, I set out and accomplished all my goals.
Right.
I still haven't had a number one, either as my band or as a songwriter, but that's coming.
I think it is coming. And I always find it so interesting, and we've talked about it on the podcast. I never felt racism until I moved to LA. Like, as a Mexican kid growing up in Texas, we were just Texans, right? I had white friends, black friends, and we were all just Texans. And it was never, we were very mixed in high school. I don't know about you guys.
We were too. I was from West Texas. Yeah, I never even thought about it.
You hung out with the Mexican kids, the white kids, everybody just hung out, right? And then when I moved to LA, everything was so separate. It was like, oh, well, that's the Mexican neighborhood and that's the black neighborhood. And, so I always used to say, like, as much as people say, well, Texas is so racist, right? And then all of a sudden, getting to know Randy, finding out that most of Randy's friends in New Braunfels
I was wondering, how did we go?
Are Mexican American. No, I'm getting to the collaboration of the Chupacabra song.
Oh, Randy's new song.
Right? And for Randy to reach out to, and forgive me, I forget their name.
La Maquinaria.
La Macarena. How did that, I just feel like I said, most of Randy's friends when we play basketball, it's Randy, white guy, and a bunch of Mexicans.
Yeah.
And that's why we call ourselves the Chanclas, right?
I feel like deep down Randy would love to be a Mexican.
Well, but that's what I mean is there's such an influence here.
Bueno.
Right? But there's influence, right? And how did that collaboration come to fruition?
Yeah, we met, Keith Nieto and I met through a mutual friend, Carlos Alvarez, who's the head of the Grammy board here in Texas. And we had the idea for the song Chupacabra from a songwriter friend of mine named Jim Beavers, who also wrote Red Solo Cup. and lots of other big hits, but I just love to throw that out there because he loves it. He had the idea for Chupacabra and for me to collaborate with someone. So I reached out to Carlos. Carlos made the intro to Keith. I learned all about Maquinaria Norteña and where they travel and their fan base and the similarities we have. They've been on the road about the same time, as long as we have. We had so much in common, and we wrote the song, and then it all came to life in the studio with their band and our band, and, created this dance craze that is taking over the nation.
No, it's awesome. I mean, and it's, but it's a fun song. It's a fun song. And then for me, it's like, okay, well, here's this country singer that's got to be the Texas in you, the Texan, because you don't see that other places.
Well,
you got George Strait singing El Rey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had collaborations with Willie, with Jerry Jeff, lots of my heroes. But never a collaboration that pushed me out of my own box.
Cross genres.
Like a crossover, yeah.
And it pushed me out of my comfort zone. I think for any other artists out there, I think it's a great idea, to stretch yourself and to open your mind up and to not be afraid to take a chance. Because I tell you, I played that song for all my peers before it came out, all my other lead singer folk, and they were just mad at me. They were like, "Damn it, you did it first! That's such a great idea. Right. It sounds so good, and we wish we would have done it." And I think more people should take chances.
But there's also, if you go to any Randy show, any, Wade Bowen show, there's the Mexican American, and then there's, the white people, and it's they dress the same, I think the Mexicans might have a little pokier boots,
Yeah.
But it's definitely, to me, it was already happening.
Yeah.
And then you took it there. So how did the Chupacabra song, who wrote that?
So, yeah, we all wrote it together. So Jim Beavers, his brother Brett Beavers, myself, and Keith Nieto, saxophone player for La Maquinaria Norteña. So we all wrote it. It all was a COVID thing. We all were writing it over Zoom and back and forth recordings. And then once COVID kind of let up a little bit, we were able to get into the studio in Nashville and all bang it out.
So usually when you record, you guys go to Nashville?
No, we just got finished recording in Louisiana, in Maurice, Louisiana, at a studio called Dockside, where just so many great blues and Louisiana Cajun stuff has come out of. We've recorded in Austin, we've recorded in Nashville, we recorded, where else? I can't remember where else. But
Chelsey, do you usually go? The whole family goes now, or?
No, because they're
working all the time.
boring.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, he'll sing for 10 minutes out of the whole day, and you just kind of
sitting there
tinkering, tooling.
Well, that's
around.
how Renae.
He just kind of paces around.
Renae's never seen. Renae's never seen Ohio. Hold on, take it back once.
I did. I went to Cleveland, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
But yeah, Renae looks at my calendar and goes, "Oh, Florida, California,
People
New York."
are like, "Oh, do you go everywhere?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I only go to the fun ones."
You got to figure out what's worth packing up the kids.
Yeah,
and all
we're not going. No.
What's the plan when we go to kindergarten?
Well, she's going second, so.
Oh gosh.
River's in
second.
She's in second grade already.
So we've done it for 2 years, and it's not as bad as I thought.
Well, help us understand.
Do you just miss a
Yeah, what do you do?
No, not really. I mean, you can, but we really didn't. I mean, kindergarten. My mom's here, so if we go anywhere, we can make a long weekend out of it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of holidays. I mean, for your typical one. So we'll kind of do it around that, and then if he's gone for longer, then I'll just go up by myself, and my mom will watch him for a couple of days. But
luckily, we have her mom. By the way, Jan, you're a saint.
I was gonna say, you don't have a Betty, you have a Jan.
We do have a Jan.
Yeah.
Jan's awesome. I remember walking into the shop, and she's there with the babies.
Oh yeah.
Like hanging clothes and
she's in it.
And how about your parents?
Yeah, so unfortunately, my dad passed away during COVID, not from COVID, but he had a long battle with cancer.
Yeah.
And my mom, I think, is finally coming out of her shell. So she's still up in good old Cleburne, Texas.
There's got to be something great about. I mean, you got to make the people of Cleburne proud. I mean, I don't think. I mean, that Billy Bonnell, the comedian, is from Cleburne.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
And it was funny because he goes, "Steve, I really want to do Dallas with you," And he goes, "Do you know Cleburne, like where Randy's from? Randy Rogers is from Cleburne." Like he had this pride of and same with Gregory Portland, right?
Yeah.
Where people are like, "Well, Steve Trevino's from here," and it's cool, but I still go home, and I don't know if you deal with this, but I'll have people, you changed, Trevino. And I'm like, no, you changed. I'm the same.
Randy goes and he like goes in the gas station and he's like looking around, hoping that someone will recognize him. But we don't.
I don't
we
even
don't
look like that.
ever see him.
I love her impression.
He's like
that.
casually getting the
Unless I'm
water
hammered.
at the gas station. He's like
With the water fountain.
looking around,
Look
and then
around.
he's like, "Let's go.
I'm looking for lottery
This
tickets.
place is dead."
Nobody recognized me. Let's go.
Like,
Steve was saying,
I don't even
I
like
don't need.
this
Steve
gas
was like,
station.
I won the lottery. I don't need a lottery ticket.
Yeah, so my in-laws are walking in the neighborhood and they come home and they go, oh man, I bet they see us and think they won the lottery. And I tell my in-laws, I'm like, you did. You fucking did, dude. Enjoy the lottery. But we love that you guys came in and hung out with us.
We could
and
talk forever.
We could talk forever. And I know that Randy and Chelsey have places to be and
Yes.
things to do, but there's something special about New Braunfels, and there's something special about what we do. And people always ask me, who are the artists that you admire, right? And I always admire the artists that somehow have made this marriage thing work.
Family,
Right.
Family and life on the road.
It makes me feel like, all right,
It can happen.
despite all the problems that we do have, it can be made. So who are the artists that you guys admire? And is it the same? Do you admire artists? Like George Strait for me is one of my all-time, like here's a guy who's couldn't be any bigger of a star and has managed to stay married, And who's that for you guys?
Well, I mean, you just nailed it on the head, bud. I mean, George's been married to Norma for I don't know how many years, forever. What a great example he's set for all of us. I think that a lot of times in this industry, music and touring and if you want to call it fame, I don't like to say that we're famous or that we're celebrities, but what the things that go along with being on a stage can really divide and separate. And Chelsey and I do have conversations about how our family is more important than anything coming between us, and that nothing will break us up. And I think just having that drive, having that desire to stay together, and the choice every morning when you wake up to stay
Putting in the effort
Yes,
to do
the
that. Because
Who
it
do
takes
I
effort.
see? I mean, I see people all the time that I think, oh, that's great. Shannon and Cody, Canada. I like that their kids are involved. I like that they let them do their own thing. I like that they make a point of having them all there all the time. I see them everywhere, and I'm like, oh, see, I like that. Like, It's not just them together, but the whole thing.
And
the
they
whole
stayed
shebang.
together through like a huge breakup of a band, and
Like a lot of things, it's just, I just feel like that is kind of a good family. Like, hey, you can do that.
local New Braunfels.
If they can do
peeps.
it, I can do it.
We feel the same way. Like we're like, all right, well, if
gonna
they
say, I
can
don't
do
know
it, we
them.
can do
I
it.
don't
Yeah.
And Renae
See what they're doing.
Renae hit me with something early on our marriage that like really changed my point of view on things. And I had told Renae, I'm like, you know what, fuck this. Like I'm leaving and I'm tired of this shit. And we're having this huge argument. And then Renae goes, I want you to notice that I've never threatened to leave.
I say it all the time. You shouldn't say that.
And it for me, no, but
Like, you shouldn't say that.
Like,
It's not
it-
something you should say unless you absolutely mean it. And then once you go, don't you come back.
oh my God, y'all are the fucking
Don't
same.
come back.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think that I need that. I think I need that, like, hey, first of all, I'm here. I'm in this shit with you, and I've never threatened to leave. You're the one threatening to leave. And ultimately, if you want to leave, I'm fucking fine without you. That's Renee's attitude.
Another couple, Pat and Corey Green. Pat Green and his
Oh,
wife
yeah.
Corey.
Pat and Corey are great.
They've
And their
been-
kids are involved. And I
Yeah.
hung out with them this weekend. He played Green Hall, and we all floated. She called me. Randy was out of town. He was like, so you're floating with Pat and Corey? Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, and the girls. And they have a Rainey. But she's 15. And so she had her friends. And I took my little ones. And we all, me, Pat, Corey, Rainey and her 4 friends, and my my oldest one, River, we all floated.
Yeah.
I'm like, Randy was like, oh, well, I kind of want to float.
So how long has Pat been with his wife?
Probably 20.
20, they just had their 5th or 6th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
And if she was sitting right here, they grew up about 9 miles from each other.
No shit.
Same
I mean,
person.
it is the exact same person. The three of y'all, exact same.
Same.
So that means,
It's
that
a personality type.
personality type
For sure.
I think so.
that has to marry this personality type and for it to work.
But I agree with that because Renee's the planner. Renee's the book smart. Renee's the like, I need sticky notes to remind me. I'm the like, pull the trigger, let's go, 100 miles an hour, right? There's a business opportunity, I'm fucking doing it. And then she's the, wait a minute, let's look at the numbers of this business opportunity.
Do you think that's a good idea?
Right. So
Should you buy the Kawasaki that doesn't fit in the garage?
I saw that thing.
And
We're
he was
fucking
like,
still
what
there.
is this?
First thing I saw when I walked up, I said, that looks like some redneck Mexican stuff right there.
that's some Randy Rogers Machineria shit, right?
You need flames on that thing. Why are there no flames
Well,
on there?
so my
I want
friend,
to get Captain Evil put on the side
Sure,
of it.
with flames.
no, so I parked the mule in the garage, and then the hailstorm comes, and Renee's Land Rover is out there, and the fucking hilarious.
shit.
So she won't let it go. Now she's like, well, your stupid fucking mule was in the garage, and my Land Rover is all fucking dented. But I don't know about Chelsea, but Renee doesn't let things go, ever.
No, it takes weeks sometimes, weeks. And then it gets brought back up 2 weeks later. I'm like, we already
It'll
talked
get brought
about
back
that.
up the next day, and he's like, "Why are we talking about old shit?" I'm like, "It happened less than 12 hours ago.
No,
That
but
is
I'm
not.
like,
It's
dude,
not even old.
I'm like, we
it's
don't-
fresh."
That's relevant.
But I don't have a time machine. I can't go back. Like I told Renee, I'm like, can we get over this and move forward? Or we're
No,
just going to fucking
can't.
harp on this shit?
Can't.
You know, I'm sorry I didn't wake up because I was drunk. I
Okay, let's not
apologize.
end on a fight.
Okay, yeah. We fight a lot on this.
How do you
podcast.
fix it for the next time? That is the question.
I always tell Renee, like, Renee likes to get mad at me. Renee likes to get mad at me for shit I haven't done.
I just can anticipate stupidity.
Oh, I know. Oh, I can tell.
No, I'm like, let me
So
not-
guess what's gonna happen
No,
tonight?
let
This
me
is what's
not
going
wake
to
up
happen, and I need for you
in
to
the
not let
morning.
it happen.
Let me not wake up in the morning.
I don't have
And
time
then
for
bitch.
that. There's no time for that.
But that night, she's like, oh, you're going to drink tonight? And I'm like, yeah, but I'll be up in the morning.
No, you won't.
And I'm solid.
Oh, Randy's
here's-
solid popper
Can-
upper.
I know this has been a long conversation, but let's end on a positive note.
Yes, let's end on a positive note.
Thanks to all the fans.
Yes, for sure. We call them family.
Yes.
I told Renee, you know, it's fan is such a weird word to me, and I heard you earlier talk about that, about fame and celebrity. So to all the friends, and do me a favor, I encourage you, for those of you that don't know Randy and his music, put Randy Rogers in your Spotify and enjoy.
Randy Rogers Band.
Yes, Randy Rogers Band, and enjoy, because you're one of my favorites. There's so many songs that mean so much to Renee and I that you have. One of the reasons we used Interstate for the opening of Till Death, because it just
That was your suggestion, and we were like, that song is perfect.
it is perfect. I don't have the time to unpack anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so Randy, Chelsea, thank you for joining us here in our home,
Thank you
in
for
our
inviting
studio.
us. It was
And,
so fun.
Cheers.
I'm interested to see what the what the comments are. We get a lot of comments, and I want to see what people say. Here's to the Rogers and the Trevino.
Randy
Thank
seems
y'all.
nice. That's what the comments can say.
Yeah, no, he's a great singer, Steve. Fuck you. And both your wives are very negative. Both of you.
Peace out.